which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Well, good afternoon. Before we go to any formal business today, it's a great pleasure to be joined by Reverend Jonathan Fleming. It's customary that we are visited by clergy on this particular meeting on an annual basis. And Reverend Fleming will give us a period of reflection here today. Also, I think he's probably promoting the fact that we're the Inverclyde Council on Sunday, of which you are all very welcome to attend. Reverend Fleming.
Thank you, Provost, and good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen, who are here in the chambers or indeed online. Just lovely to be with you. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the Reverend Jonathan Fleming, and for the last 3 years I've been minister at the Lyle Kirk here in Greenock, and I'm currently the interim moderator at Well Park Midkirk. And so allow me to echo the invitation of the Provost to join us for the Kirking of the Council this coming Sunday. Allow me to open with a passage which some of you may have heard at school, some of you may have heard if you were at Sunday school, some may hear it on a regular Sunday. But this is from John's Gospel, and it's the familiar story of the feeding of the 5,000. After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, also called the Sea of Tiberias. A large crowd kept following him because they saw the signs that he was doing for the sick. Jesus went up the mountain and sat down there with his disciples. Now the Passover, the festival of the Jews, was near. When he looked up and saw a large crowd coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread for these people to eat?" He said this to test him, for he knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii would not be enough to buy bread for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many people?" Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was a great deal of grass in the place, so they sat down, 5,000 in all. Then Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated, and also the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were satisfied, he told his disciples, "Gather up the fragments left over, so that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up, and from the fragments of the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten, they filled 12 baskets. When the people saw the sign he had done, they began to say, "This is indeed the prophet who is come into the world." When Jesus realized they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain by himself. I don't know how many of you have ever heard the story of the boy walking along a beach, and all along the shore were thousands of starfish washed up on the shore. You could hardly walk on the sand for them. And the boy was putting a few in his buckets and then taking them back to the sea, until a man came along and said, "There are thousands of starfish stranded. Why bother? You will hardly make an impression. You will only be able to put a few back into the sea." The boy replied, "It will matter for these few, and it will matter to me." Though our effort may seem small at times, it is counted as worthwhile. And who knows what God will do with our efforts. The feeding of the 5,000, I think, sums up a lot of what we try to do in our day-to-day lives, whether it be here as our locally appointed representatives, or as members of a community or a society. Sometimes when we look at what we have available to us, the resources we have available to us, we wonder where we start. We wonder, what on earth are we going to be able to do with sometimes so little? But as we hear in today's story, Jesus was able to use a boy's packed lunch, 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. I remember one Christian thinker who actually said, 5 loaves and 2 barley fish to feed 5,000 people. That's not a meal. That's tapas. But it's this idea of, if we trust that we are using what we have before us to its maximum potential, and if we trust that God will use us and what we have available for the benefit of all around us, it's not for us to determine, it's not for us to decide who that will work for, who that will reach. We have to trust that we are putting our resources in the right places for the right reasons. And then not to be wasteful with what is left. I always love the fact that Jesus doesn't just walk away having fed 5,000 people. It's not like a scene from Glastonbury where you see the big clean-up afterwards where there's breadcrumbs and fish bones all over the place. Jesus asks the disciples to go around and gather up what's left. And there were 12 baskets of leftovers, having fed everyone and satisfied them. Sometimes we wonder if the things we are doing are making a difference. Sometimes we think that we're not being able to reach everyone with what we're doing. And sometimes that's true. There are times where the things we're doing are not going to impact certain people. But that doesn't mean that the next thing that we are agreeing upon, the next thing that we're working on, is not going to reach out to those who have maybe not benefited from the previous thing. So as the stewards, or as the decision makers and the people who discuss and deliberate and support the people of our communities all around here in Inverclyde, may we trust that the things that we have available to us are used wisely. May they be for the benefit of all that we can reach. And may we trust that even in the times where we're maybe not seeing the differences being made, we trust that behind the closed doors, or perhaps in the parts of the community that we're not seeing, we're seeing people's lives being changed for the better and for the positive transformation that can come from our good works. Let's pray together, or simply reflect on these words. Good and gracious God, we thank you for bringing us here this afternoon, both here in this space and online. We give thanks for the skills and insights that you have blessed us with, and that you will continue to help and guide us as we strive to serve the people of Inverclyde. We ask your blessing on all we seek to do to challenge the situations that are faced both locally and nationally. We ask that you're with us as we seek to challenge issues such as poverty and the demands on our education, health and social care sectors. Lord, you have called us to meet all the needs of those who elected us, that they might have life and know it in all its fullness. May you be with us as we step up to those challenges that come with such responsibility. Bless all, we pray, who are tasked with making significant decisions, which affect the lives of so many, as well as those who put them into action. May you be with us as we use the resources that are available to us, and may they go to transform the lives of so many, and the many who are in need. Help us, Lord, to dream dreams and to see visions. But above all, unite us in our common goals. Encourage us to speak up against what troubles us. Encourage and equip us to take action and to make this wonderful place, Inverclyde, all that she can be. Not just today, but tomorrow and forevermore. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Fleming, for coming along here and engaging us with your fine words. It is very worthy that we should take time out of our busy schedules to have these moments of contemplation, and we thank you for taking the time and effort to come along, and you're more than welcome to remain with us to witness the democratic process in action.
Thank you, Bruce. If you excuse me, I'm actually going to go there for tonight's hustings.
Very well done. Thank you very much indeed.
That was very quick.
I've always been excused.
Yeah.
Martin.
Item number 1, apologies and declarations of interest.
Provost will now move to an attendance roll call before proceeding to the declarations of interest. And the following members please indicate if they are present at the meeting either in person or remotely. Councillor Armstrong.
Present remotely.
Councillor Brennan.
Present in person.
Councillor Brooks. Councillor Cassidy.
Present chamber.
Councillor Clopperty.
Present chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Daisley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Jackson.
Present remotely.
Councillor Law.
Present remotely.
Councillor McCabe.
Present chamber.
Councillor McCluskey.
Present remotely.
Councillor McCormick.
Present remotely.
Councillor McGuire. Councillor McGuire.
Sorry, I don't know if you heard me. My signal went there. I am here, Councillor Maguire.
Thank you. Provost Mackenzie.
In chamber.
Councillor McVeigh.
In chamber.
Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Councillor Nelson.
Chamber.
Councillor Quinn.
Present remotely.
Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Wilson.
In the chamber.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Mr. Brooks.
Just that item 8 is reference to Inverclyde phones of substantial, but I'm a member of the Relations Board of Representation and take this to the chamber.
Thank you. Councillor Curley.
A similar declaration of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Curley. No more declarations of interest. Members, you will have already been notified that the agenda today, item 7, the review of the Health and Social Care Integration Scheme, has been withdrawn. Regarding the minutes of previous meetings, the meeting of Inverclyde Council held on the 25th of April 2024, pages 131 to 136. I will move that is a true and proper minute. Is there anybody otherwise minded? Thank you. The Planning Board of the 1st of May, 137 to 140, Councillor McVeigh.
That's a true record for us.
Thank you. Is there anybody otherwise minded? The Audit Committee of the 7th of May, 141, 142, Councillor Wilson.
I move this as a true minute, Provost.
Thank you. The General Purposes Board, 8th of May, 143, 144, Councillor Moran.
I'll move it a true record, Provost.
Thank you. The Social Work and Social Care Scrutiny Panel, 14th of May, 145 to 148, Councillor Brennan.
Provost, I'll move it as a true record of the minute.
Thank you. Environment Regeneration Committee, 16th of May, 149, 154, Councillor McCormick, please.
I move the minute as a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McCormick. Is there anybody otherwise? Thank you. Education Communities Committee, 21st of May, 155, 159, Councillor Clopperty, please.
I'll move this as a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Clopperty. The Policy and Resources Committee, 4th of June, 160, 164, Councillor McCabe, please.
I move this true record, Provost.
Thank you. The Planning Board of the 5th of June, 165, 175, Councillor McVeigh.
Move this as a true record, Provost.
Thank you. And the Local Police and Fire Scrutiny Panel of the 6th of June, 176 to 178, Councillor Wilson.
I move this as a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Is there anybody otherwise minded here? There is private papers concerning some of these minutes. Would any member be wishing to bring something regarding the private papers to the meeting? No, that's fine. That will save us getting into private session at the end of this meeting. Item number 3. Sorry, Councillor.
I read the general report sheet yesterday.
That came in. Aye. Station, not me. Came in the extra.
No, we'll go to the next one.
Actually, station. Go to the next meeting. Go to the next meeting. Item number 3 in the agenda, the scheme of administration, political balance. Mrs. Brown, please.
Thank you, Provost. Good afternoon, members. Following some movements within the political makeup of the council, whereby Councillor Nelson has entered into an affiliation with the Conservative Group, and Councillor Print has resigned from the internal independent coalition, and a new independent alliance between the other two independent members has been formed. There is a requirement in line with Standing Order 59 to reconsider the political balance of the council's committees, subcommittees and boards, as well as outside bodies. Additionally, following the resignation of Councillor McCluskey from the Greater Glasgow Inverclyde Health Board, there is a requirement for the council to make a nomination to the Scottish Ministers for the council's representative on that board. A motion has been circulated to members dealing with the proposed nominations to the council's committees and subcommittees. I would like to for it to be noted in the recommendations that this does not achieve complete political balance, but I understand is as close to it as is practicable at present. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Are there any questions for Mrs. Brown at this stage? You have submitted here, you have in front of you a copy of the new setup for all the committees, and I think everybody has been accommodated as best we can, and therefore I would like to move the recommendations that we adopt these new committee, consider the terms of the report, approves the rebalance of the committees, makes the appropriate adjustments to the outside bodies, etc., and notes that the report will be presented to a future meeting of the council following a review of the appropriateness of council nominations to the board of organisations with tender for council contracts. And I would also have a great pleasure in asking for a nomination for the member for the health board. Can I have a nomination from them? I would nominate Councillor Moran to be that nomination from this council to the health board. And I would ask Councillor McVeigh to second that, please.
Thank you, Provost. I'm seconding the nomination for Councillor Moran and second your motion.
Thank you, Councillor McVeigh. Thank you. Therefore, we agree the recommendations.
Yeah.
Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Provost, for bringing me in. Just to confirm, as the largest opposition group in the council, we don't want to put forward an alternative. I do want to kind of pay tribute to my colleague Sandra Reynolds. When Councillor McCluskey did resign, we weren't sure if the entirety of the Labour group would feel the same way in terms of moving forward with the health board. So we were going to put forward Councillor Reynolds, who has 46 years of experience as a pharmacist working across community and primary care. She's extensive experience in training pharmacists, has been involved in NHS, Greater Glasgow professional groups since 2006 and has been a pharmacy champion in the area for a number of years. But now that we know that Councillor Moran is feels differently and is able to kind of take forward the NHS post, then we absolutely withdraw that. I didn't want to contribute more than my colleague in terms of our thinking as a group. So
thank you very much, Councillor Robertson. Members, I thank you for agreeing these recommendations. Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, just to clarify the position, Councillor McCluskey resigned from the health board because the health board's code of conduct would have required him to support the decision that was taken in GP service. He could not do that because he fundamentally opposes the decision in GP service. So Councillor Moran or anybody else who would be nominated would not be bound by that decision because they weren't party to that decision. Absolutely, I believe my colleague Councillor Moran is a very worthy nomination. He's been a previous convener of health and social care. He's the current chair of the IGB. He's got a long previous promise. He was very much involved in health matters as well. So I think he's an eminently good nomination for the health board. But I want to say in terms of Councillor Reynolds is that the Health Board actually regularly advertises for new members to be appointed by ministers. Obviously, I don't think there's anything to preclude Councillor Reynolds or anybody else in Inverclyde applying for those particular vacancies when they arise. But obviously, we as a council are only able to nominate one person for the Health Board.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. At this stage, members, I would like to thank you all for being so accommodating at the assembling of the new committees, particularly to Councillor Wilson and his group, to Councillor Robertson, and particularly to Councillor McCabe and the Labour group for working with me to be able to accommodate the new setup. Thank you so much. Item number 4, decision of the Standards Commission hearing. Page 21. Mrs. Brown, please.
Thank you, Provost. Following the recent determination by the Standards Commission for Scotland, following hearing into a complaint against Councillor Nelson, Section 18 of the Ethical Standards in Public Life, etc. Scotland Act 2000 requires the Council, upon receiving a copy of such decision, to consider it within 3 months. The written determination of the hearing panel, which was dated on the 15th of April 2024, is set out in Appendix 1 for members' consideration. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to make a very quick comment. I've been involved for the last 18 years in quite a few standing commission hearings where colleagues have asked if I would help and advise them. I could say that the Standard Commission is extremely fair in what it does. You get a good hearing, but you need to remember that you're very much on your own. I say that to all my colleagues. So if you do end up with the Standards Commission, get help from your colleagues within the council. They're the best people to help you. I'll just explain how quite fair the Standard Commission was. On big page 36, it says, the panel accepted the respondents' evidence in this regard as credible and reliable. So they do listen to you, and if you're speaking the truth, they will act on it. Thank you for allowing me to say those few words for this.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Members, can we note the Standard Commission's hearing decision? Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda, administrative arrangements, the cycle of council committee, subcommittee, panel and board meetings to June 2025. Mrs. Brown, please.
Thank you, Provost. This report requires approval of the proposed schedule of committee cycles for the forthcoming period up until June 2025. In line with arrangements in previous years, the timetable has been designed to avoid, as far as practicable, meetings during school holidays, the week before Christmas and the first partial week following the return after the Christmas holidays. A number of pre-agenda meetings are scheduled for during school holidays. This is in line with previous years and is set out in paragraph 3.4 of the report as considered unavoidable without having significant knock-on effects on the rest of the timetable. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Brown? Thank you. Can we review the recommendations? Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda, page 51, finance strategy 2024 to 34, 6 monthly update. Mr. Pucker, please.
Thank you, Provost, and good afternoon, everyone. This is the latest 6 monthly update of the Council's financial strategy. The timing of the UK election and resultant delay in the Scottish Government medium-term financial strategy both mean that there's a potential for the matters raised in here to be a lot clearer by the time we get to the December financial strategy, and obviously any material impacts will be reflected at that time. As a result, it's intended to review all the funding models and earmarked reserves as part of the next review for the December Council. The strategy clearly sets out the continuing financial challenges facing the Council and identifies potential downside risks in the short term around pay inflation and interest rates. Finally, Two transfers from existing funds and reserves are requested in order to demonstrate the longer term affordability of two of the models, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Perkin. Do we have any questions for Mr. Perkin? Councillor McCain.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you to Alan and his team for all the work they put in updating the financial strategy. Obviously, does again highlight the significant financial challenges we face over the coming years, and we are going to be facing some very difficult decisions. But specifically, could I ask some questions around Appendix 8 in the document, which is page 99 of our papers, which relates to the City View funding model. As you're aware, promised yesterday, the Green Telegraph published a very sensationalist lead story regarding accusations that were made by the Save the Enstream dry dock, who have apparently written to the Auditor General for Scotland to investigate the use of public funds for the acquisition of the former APGS site in Glasgow Road, Greenock. And they've called for Councillor Curley and myself to be suspended. I don't know what to be suspended from, whether it's this council or not. But,
I don't know about you.
Sorry?
I don't know about you.
So, I have to say, I mean, we might joke about this article, but it has led to a torrent of online abuse directed towards myself and the council. Councillor Curley seems to have escaped most of the abuse, but fundamentally, I'm used to taking abuse. I get it all the time. I've been getting it for probably 17 years. I've been the leader of the council in particular for the last 10 years. It's constant. I get it every day, abuse. But what I'm not accepting is the allegations of corruption against myself, Councillor Curley, and indeed against that council. And I have to make sure that we are open and transparent as a council around these particular issues, and I'm more than happy personally to meet with the Auditor General. I doubt if he'll actually come down to meet me, but I'm sure he may well in response to any complaint ask his local auditors to investigate. But I think it is important that we clarify some matters. There was a statement issued by the council. I issued a own statement. Councillor Curley issued his statement as well. But despite our clarification and absolute rejection of the accusations, we still end up with this sensational story in our local paper. So I want to ask a series of questions of the Director of Environment Regeneration, and none of which relate to commercially sensitive matters, none of which relate to matters that have not been in the public domain. But I think it is vitally important we get clarification on the record of these particular matters, lest anybody believes that there is any foundation to these allegations that have been made. So the first question I'm going to ask the Director is, can he confirm that he submitted a report to the Environment Regeneration Committee on the 31st of August 2023, seeking the committee's support for the acquisition of the APGS land at Inverclyde, and that the committee unanimously gave approval? Secondly, can the Director remind councillors why he recommended that this land be purchased as part of the joint venture? Thirdly, can the Director advise how the acquisition of this land was funded? Fourthly, can the Director advise why the land was purchased in the name of Clyde Ports Road Ports and then leased to the Inverclyde Marine Park joint venture? Fifthly, can the Director advise how the council's interest in this land is being protected? There was also a separate related matter which has been raised in the paper and by the Save the Enstream dry dock, and that relates to a dividend payment. And in your Appendix 8, you'll see about halfway down the page, because there's a line, dividend Inverclyde joint venture, £310,000. So I've got some questions around that. So firstly, can the Director confirm that this dividend has been received at the council? Two, can the Director advise how the dividend will be utilised? And thirdly, can the Director advise if there is any expectation that the council will receive further dividends from Inverclyde Marine Park Limited over the remaining life of the 75-year joint venture as the site is released to third parties? I have given the Director notice of these questions. I'm expecting he will be able to answer these questions. And depending on his responses, I may have further questions, but that's all the questions I have at this point.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Mr. Jemison, please.
Well, it's through you.
I can confirm to the Council that I presented a report to the Environment and Regeneration Committee in August 2023, seeking the Committee's approval to acquire the said land, and the Committee supported that report. The report followed approval of the allocation of funding from the City Deal Cabinet earlier that month. Provost, in regard to, I'll just run through the answers to the questions in Councillor McCabe's order. I'm sure that the members who were on the recent site visit to Inverclyde will recall that the Jess land is at the southern boundary of the site, adjacent to the corridor, and the site projects into the main JV site. Acquisitions of the site were for the purpose of land assembly, and it gives the JV a far more regular offering to prospective tenants, which we hope to announce the fruits of discussions just shortly. Respective question 3, if you can indulge me with an exclusion of fees, Provost. Peel and the Council made equal contributions for the acquisition of the site, the value of which was independently valued at £600,000. In real terms, there were 3 contributions for the acquisition of the site: £300,000 from Peel, £258,000 from City Deal, and a contribution of 14% towards the City Deal allocation of £42,000 from the Council. So the public and private sector both equally made contributions for the acquisition of land. As I stated earlier, the acquisition of the site was to facilitate a larger land assembly with equal contributions from both partners. Its inclusion in the wider JV site means that a uniform approach is deployed in respect of the 75-year lease which has been afforded to the JV, remembering members that the whole purpose of that JV is to create economic stimulus on the site. The Council, as an equal partner of the JV, has control over the site, which, as we all know, was heavily underutilised for a number of years, and each partner has equal control of the said site in the same way that I've identified previously. Currently, 2 board members from each organisation form the board of Inverclyde Marine Park. 2 from Peel, 2 from the Council, and each representative body has advisors attending the board meeting. The JV company does have an exit strategy in the event that the site is fully developed, which would see any sale of the lease resulting in a dividend, which would be equal to both partners. In respect of the supplementary questions which Councillor McCabe raised in respect of the dividend, I can confirm that the dividend which the Council chose not to take at the time of closing the accounts had provision made for it in the Council's accounts as a sundry debtor. The sum of £309,724.91 was received by the Council on the 7th of March 2024. This dividend was built into the audited accounts for 22-23 and approved by the full Council in November 23. The £309,000 was allocated to the CMT funding model and can be seen on page 99 of today's Council papers. It forms part of the general budget. Provost, finally through you, I can confirm that the Council expects to receive further dividends from the Marine Park over the life of its 75-year lease, as the site is leased to third parties and indeed forms part of the income generation savings workstream target for 25-26. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jimson. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, just to back in, Ross, I don't need to ask any supplementary questions, but I just think it is important that I stress the points that I've made to the Greener Telegraph when they contacted you about this matter. Councillor Cully and myself at all times have acted in the interest of the Council. At all times, public funding has been properly accounted for with regard to the acquisition and indeed the use of the dividend. And we fear nothing from any investigation by the Auditor General. But I have to also make the point that the consistent harassment of councillors and officials in this council by the Save the Inverclyde campaign and their harassment, I have to say, of our partners in Clyde and Peel for is doing absolutely nothing to help us develop Inverclyde Marine Park and attract investment there and attract investment into the Inverclyde dry dock. Indeed, it's probably having a detrimental impact when companies who are looking to invest in Inverclyde go onto the web and do a bit of research, and they come up with constant stories about the council's failure, about Freeport's failure, about alleged corruption and misuse of public funds. It does absolutely nothing to help us sell this area. And why has £10 million in public funding been invested in Inverclyde Dry Dock? Equal investment from the Scottish Government and the UK Government is to try and create jobs, to attract to this community, to bring investment here, to help us regenerate our community, to address the job losses we've received, and to provide opportunities for local people and young people in particular to lift themselves out of poverty. And this constant sniping, constant smearing of the council and our partners is absolutely detrimental to our objective of trying to regenerate this community. And I ask Mr Boers and his colleagues to stop this harassment now.
Right.
Here we go.
Councillor Connolly, please.
Thank you, Provost. I think I'm not going to add anything else to what my colleague Stephen Cape said here today. I think it's fair to say I am wholeheartedly agreeing with everything you said in respect to this matter. It is very unfortunate that we have a situation where you're trying to get jobs down the pipe, but unfortunately, this has been hampered by what started off a very well-meaning campaign. But unfortunately, I think it's lost its way. As I said in my comments to the Green Telegraph, perfection is the enemy of the good. What we have planned, possible plans for Inverclyde with respect to Inverclyde Green Park is very good for the area. It might not meet the exact aspirations of one or two individuals in this area, but it will certainly meet aspirations of everybody who's going to be employed on that site. So I thank you for his heartfelt comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Connolly. Councillor McVeigh, please.
Thank you, Provost, and thanks to Mr Jimison for his answers to Councillor Keith's questions. Now, I'm not on the joint venture, we're not close to what's going on there, but on the back of the Telegraph's article yesterday, I did phone Mr Jimison last night and I got a full and transparent response to the concerns which I raised on the back of the article, and I was absolutely satisfied with what's been done and what's going on, and I thank both councillors for the actions they have taken and what they've done to move this forward, because at the end of the day, Provost, the idea is to get the Inverclyde site working for Inverclyde and to attract jobs there. And so I'm supporting the joint venture, and I hope and look forward to further announcements coming, as Mr Jimison did refer to there, coming soon with some good news, and we keep our fingers crossed for that. I think just to finish on the level of abuse, which Councillor Kay gets, let's be honest, far more than any of the rest put together, totally unacceptable. There's people out there using it for their own agendas, and that really needs to stop, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McVeigh. Members, are there any other questions for either Mr Jimison or indeed Mr Cochrane? No. Can we therefore agree the recommendations on page 51?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 8 in the agenda, Inverclyde Council bylaws for the regulation of the cleaning of common property. Page 177, and Mrs Brown, please.
Thank you, Provost. This report sets out a recommendation that the Council considers taking steps to revoke the Inverclyde Council bylaws for the regulation of the cleaning of common property, and to request that the Council includes a proposed resolution to revoke such bylaws. The bylaws were made in 2004 to deal with the regulation of the cleaning of common property and came into force in 2005. Since the bylaws were made, there have been a number of relevant and notable legal developments in this area, and these are set out in paragraph 3.5 of the report. And these clarify responsibility for common areas. Local authorities have to review bylaws for relevancy every 10 years. It is believed that this is the first review of these bylaws. Officers have consulted service areas throughout the council, as well as local RSLs, Police Scotland, and have received no responses which are in favour of the retention of the bylaws. It is considered that these bylaws should now be revoked, and the Local Government Scotland Act 1973 sets out a process for doing so and requires a resolution by the local authority. This requires advertising proposed resolution in the Green Telegraph and on the Council's website. A notice shall also be forwarded to Police Scotland, Crown Office of Procurator Fiscal Service, community councils and the Health and Social Care Partnership. And any objections that are received will be considered. It is recommended that this process is carried out, and following the representations, a report is brought back to Council outlining the outcome of the consultation and, if appropriate, seeking to pass a resolution at that point. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs Brown? No. Can we therefore agree the recommendations on page 4? Councillor Cullen.
Thank you. It's one of these things. These Bible certainly came as a surprise when I seen it come through the papers today. And I suppose that there's probably one or two people who may have been interested in this happening. I was just wondering, has there any actual, I don't know if conviction is the right word, but has anybody actually been fined with respect to these bylaws that's been actually in place in the last 10 years?
Mrs Brown.
Thank you, Provost, to you. Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Can we agree the recommendations on 177, 178? Councillor McLean.
I just want to demand, because the reality is, I was one of the councillors who was here with the yeah, I mean, I think it's councillor who promoted it, and it was certainly promoted because the way it was concerned, and in principle, private property, I have to say, there was concern that people were keeping their houses clean, and so there was a purpose to it. I think it clearly is the case that it's not. If we have no record to be used, it's not being used, and it has been overtaken by events. But it was a well-meaning bylaw brought in to try and address what was considered to be a problem, particularly I have to say in central Greenland, where houses were maybe not kept to the right standards.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Do you agree the recommendations?
Great.
Thank you. Item number 9 on page 187, the use of powers delegated to the Chief Executive, emergency powers, in respect of A, live streaming of committee meetings, B, postponement of electrical testing contract in the Greenland municipal buildings, and amendment of polling scheme. Mrs Brown, please.
Thank you, Provost. Yes, this report asks members to note that the Chief Executive used emergency powers to make certain urgent decisions, which could not be delayed until the next meeting of the Council in respect of the matters that you've just outlined. The use of these powers was authorised by the Chief Executive on the 4th of June in consultation with Councillors McCabe, Maguire, Robertson, Dukes and Provost. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Mrs Brown? Can we note the recommendations, the actions that we take? Thank you. And item 10 on the agenda, further education colleges, lecturers pay dispute. It's a notice of motion by Councillor Brennan on page 193. Councillor Brennan.
Thanks very much, Provost, and thanks to yourselves for accepting this motion to Council today. So it came about because we were approached a couple of weeks ago by local further education lecturers from West College, Scotland, based here in Inverclyde, to see what, if anything, we could do to find a method of giving support, because this dispute has been going on for quite some time now, and we took the decision to raise it here with yourselves at full council. At the heart of the motion, you've got the text in front of you, is really a question. Do we value further education here in Scotland? And do we say to the diverse groups who use further education, that might be young people accessing vocational courses, It might be parents learning a new trade after a break from the workplace, or perhaps an unfortunate redundancy, or older people needing new skills, and certainly as well employers and businesses who need the skills that only a college really can bring to make their workforce successful. Are we saying to these people, you're a vital part of our society, our economy, our future? You'll see that the motion states that we note with deep concern the dispute involving college lecturers, and it certainly is across Scotland just now. But they're now waiting almost 2 years for an increase in pay. So there's a request in the motion that we ask our Chief Executive to write to the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Skills and the Minister for Further and Higher Education for an urgent intervention. When I met with lecturers at West College Scotland's Finner Street campus and the Waterfront campus this morning, and when I've spoken to EIS Further Education Lecturers Association members in recent times, they're absolutely desperate for a sign of respect for their contribution to the educational life of our area and across Scotland. And at times, I think they felt that that sign of respect could really have been seen to be lacking when it gets to the real bread and butter of the negotiations. As people often say, show me your budget and I'll tell you what your priorities are. Now, we accept that industrial action has a significant impact on those involved. That's really the point of industrial action. It's inherent in the very activity. And staff only take this step when they absolutely have to. And seeing them this morning, they're really feeling the impact on that. That was evident. But so do the learners. Here in Inverclyde, these students are impacted by this dispute, and it's bringing disruption. If you're a young person in further education, then that's disruption coming on top of very recent disruption to your education already. It's impacting on you hearing about qualifications, you're making plans for next steps, it's impacting on consistency and routines that we know some groups of those people using further education will need, and it could be impacting even on sort of families and individuals' finances too, as they've got that level of uncertainty. This is really a disruption that needs to be taken very seriously. That's why there's a growing frustration, I think, in the FE sector, and it's coupled with a sense of unease about the attempted demoralisation of that whole sector as we see attempts to erode it. That's why we're seeking urgent intervention in this dispute. Because in answer to that question that asked at the start about whether or not we value that vital piece of the whole education jigsaw here in Scotland, we really do here in Inverclyde, and we need West College Scotland. It's that rich, flexible, diverse opportunity that brings to students and those stakeholders now and in the future. And we have to show that we value that at every possible opportunity. That's why we want, I'm sure, as Inverclyde Council, to see this dispute resolved as soon as possible. So I move this motion, and I'll invite my colleague, Councillor McCluskey, to second.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Councillor McCluskey, please.
Thank you, Provost. I just wanted to speak briefly to second this motion to support Councillor Brennan. And first, I just want to pay tribute to the EIS FILA reps that we met this morning, who, as Councillor Brennan said, have been out on strike now for their pay for quite some time. I just want to make 3 brief points. Firstly, that our colleges provide a crucial role in our education system and our economy. And when Councillor Brennan and myself visited the picket line this morning to express our support for the college lecturers, we heard stories about how important the sector is in providing opportunities for people, often those who are returning to education later in life or undertaking specialist vocational training. And they're also crucial for our economic growth as a country, and they should be the engine rooms of reskilling people for the jobs of the future. But sadly, the opportunities on offer locally are not what they used to be, and too often students now have to travel out of the area for courses that used to be provided locally. And this brings me to the second point I want to make, that the college sector has sadly been deprioritised by the government, and we've not seen adequate or sustainable funding for them. The lecturers we spoke to this morning talked about how busy the college once was, but now it has the feel, and this is in their own words, like the Marie Celeste. The funding pressures have meant jobs lost and a consequence, courses axed. And as we also heard this morning, courses being axed locally means people who might struggle to travel, like carers or people with disabilities, losing access to education entirely. So finally, this brings me to the kind of core reason for this motion, the ongoing industrial dispute in the college sector. Sadly, industrial disputes are no longer rare in the public sector in Scotland, but while many of them have come to some sort of resolution, this particular dispute has dragged on for years. This morning, we were told the impact on staff of not having pay increases for years when food prices have been increasing, mortgage rates have been increasing, and the continued stress that this uncertainty brings. Absolutely none of the union members who we spoke to today want to be on strike, but being forced into this due to very poor offers amidst a cost of living crisis. And the impact, as Councillor Brennan has said, on learners has also been significant, with many classes disrupted. As we ourselves have seen in local government, settling pay disputes often involve seeking a better settlement from central government, but there appears to have been a reluctance to directly engage with this dispute. So given the serious consequences for staff and students of this dispute continuing, it is time, we believe, that the Minister gets round the table with the union and brings this dispute to a close. I urge everyone to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCluskey. I'll go to Councillor Robertson and then Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Provost. Thanks for bringing forward this motion. We wholeheartedly support the motion, and we do think that it's time for different action to be taken to make sure that this doesn't become just the way things have to happen for things to change in the FE sector. My main involvement in the FE sector was as a college board member for 10 years, and I've seen firsthand how further education transforms lives and absolutely has the potential to do so. And we need to treasure it. We absolutely need to hold it as a precious thing, because if we have an imbalance of funding towards universities, then we do ourselves as a society a disservice. And I think that's certainly a question that we do need to reflect on across the country. The colleges operate in a system of regionalisation. They now have collective bargaining. Those things are great things for some people and not so great things for other people. I think it's a classic case of being never going to be able to please everybody all the time with everything that you do. But what I feel very strongly is, obviously, that there's an opportunity here in the negative sense for this to be another system where funding relationships are not able to be sustained and are not able to work properly. Something like what we see with the relationship that we have in local government. This is something that I think we shouldn't be passive about, and we should push for change. We are people who care about what happens in this community. We know that what happens in this community in terms of further education is across the country, and it's right for us to use our voices to say that can't stay the way it is. When I started off being a college board member, I think 65% of our budget was used on salaries. By the time I left, it was 85%. There's nowhere for colleges to go. There's literally nowhere for them to go in terms of the budget constraints that they have. It's something that we really do, and I think we're not even at that position, I don't think, in terms of local government, but 85% of the budget that they have is used on salaries. It's something that really needs to be looked at. And I just think that we've got the situation we have with our college locally. We need our college locally to be sustainable. We need the college as the colleges and the college network as employers to be sustainable in terms of how they deal with their workforce, not only in terms of their workforce, but as Councillor Brennan rightly says, as the people who teach young people and lifelong learners and allow colleges to operate as places of learning. The relationship with government is as a funder, not as the employer. I think that's something that we do have to bear in mind in terms of our communications. But I think there are so many players, it's fractal, it's right the way through the system, from an individual college right up to the whole system and how it relates to the Scottish Government, that we really do need to use our voices at a local level to change, because I think if we don't, then it's not going to be sustainable, and we are going to lose a really valuable part of our educational system that can transform lives. So we back the motion, and we really want to put our shoulders to the wheel in terms of making a sustained change, so that something moves in terms of the way things currently are. So thanks for bringing the motion forward.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Councillor McCabe and then Councillor Reynolds, please.
Yeah, thanks, Provost Nagy. Thanks to my colleagues, Councillor Brennan and Councillor McCluskey, for bringing the motion forward. This is personal for me. My son's been attending West College, Scotland, in Greenock last year and in Paisley in this current academic year, and his learning has been significantly disrupted over that period. He had classes cancelled when he was at Greenock campus. His SQA certificate wasn't updated to several months after everybody else's SQA certificate was updated. And in this academic year, while he's been at the Paisley campus, he's had significant disruption, particularly in the last few months, I have to say. And as Councillor Brennan has stated, it's not been good for him to have this disruption to his learning. And really, it cannot continue. It's too late for my son now. He's finished college. He was due to finish college tomorrow, but actually they finished on Monday because the lecturers are on strike for the rest of the week. So it's too late for him in terms of this particular period at college. But others will obviously continue on in college, and this dispute has been going on for far too long. And I've heard that Scottish Government ministers pride themselves that they've not had any strikes in the health service in Scotland, and indeed the former First Minister, Mr Youssef, offered to mediate in the dispute between the UK Government and the junior doctors in England. But the reality is we've had plenty of strikes in the public sector in Scotland, particularly in local government, and this strike running for 2 years. And we know as employers we're facing the prospect of strikes in the coming weeks and months because the pay offer that we've made has been rejected. So we will be facing some very tough decisions. But the reality is this dispute has been going on for 2 years. 2 years. And I have great sympathy with the lecturers and the impact that's having on them. But at the end of the day, there are employers, but the funders are the government. And the simple reality is ministers cannot sit back any longer and wash their hands of this dispute. It's having such a severe impact on learners. They need to get around the table. They need to bang heads together. They need to find a way of resolving this dispute. We cannot simply get into another academic year with this dispute continuing. So I would urge all members of the council to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Provost. I'm happy to fully support this motion. I worked in FE over 20 years. I'm fully aware of the vital role the FE sector has across our community. As a former head of School of Science and a member of the EIS Joint Negotiating Committee at the former James Watt College of Further and Higher Education, I was very fortunate to be part of good relations between the union and the management, despite the end of national negotiations. Unfortunately, when there was a change of principle, this did not continue, and I believe the situation has not improved significantly since I resigned my post in 2006. Despite this, I continue to work as an external verifier for all pharmacy and life science qualifications in FE colleges and companies across Scotland, and did my best to support FE staff under pressure in the delivery and assessment of their courses. Be assured that due to my background, I support claims for fair pay, as I do with all public service workers. Strikes have been mostly avoided in other public service areas, and in saying that, in FE, pay terms and conditions are still dependent on decisions made by individual college management as they are the employer, despite the not unexpected, extremely difficult return to national negotiations 7 years ago. I am acutely aware that funding is a contributing factor across all public services, given the problems we also face here in local government. You will not be surprised to hear that as an SNP elected member, I am convinced that independence is the only route left to properly fund our public services and capital projects by having complete control over our own fiscal and financial levers. Until then, I support fair pay claims for a profession that gave me so much and allowed me to serve my local community in this capacity. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Councillor McVeigh, please.
Thank you, Provost. I have to say, when I read the paper, I was pleased and pleasantly surprised when I seen this motion come forward to support the lectures at the college. After all, we've been doing this for 5 years. Myself, yourself, Councillor Quinn, and Councillor Alfield. When he was in the chamber, and we were very supportive of the college because of the issues that were on board there. And I have to say, Provost, we get very little support from across the chamber. Councillor Jackson, maybe a part who came along and supported the lectures and the issues they were raising about the lack of investment in the infrastructure of the college, about the reduction in the number of courses, about courses now only being offered in maybe Paisley and Clydebank, all to the detriment of the people here in Inverclyde. So I'm pleasantly surprised and I'm happy to support the motion. I just wish it maybe came a wee bit sooner. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McVeigh. Members, can we agree the terms of this? Thank you very much. Members, I would just remind you all that the meeting of the council is this Sunday. We are now going into summer recess. For those of you involved in the election campaign, I wish you well. For those of you who are going on holiday, I hope that you come back suitably refreshed to start again after the summer break. Thanks to the admin staff for today's meeting, and thanks to officers for their preparation. Thank you, members. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.